So after you've got your guitar in tune, giving the strings a good stretch, you know, now you're going to move on to what microphone you're going to use and what mic pre, whether you're going to use any compression, and you know, it's all things that are going to sort of add to the character and capturing the sound that you're making in the room. So I suppose you know, a great microphone to use for guitars is an SM57 because you know it can handle the sound pressures that the guitar put out, and it's naturally has a nice mid-range to it. So you know, it kind of a real workhorse for guitars, you know, and it's a £80 microphone that, you know, if you get the sound right in the room, you can get a great guitar sound with this mic. There's no, you know, there's no tricks involved really with this mic. It's just, you know, a good mic position and a good sound coming from the amplifier. So I suppose then after the mic, you know, you're going to want a mic pre that has a reasonable amount of headroom to it, you know, so that you know, you're not into distortion. You know, something. I mean, I would for guitars, anything from an SSL to a Neve is great. You know, a 1073 is a fantastic mic amp for guitars. You know, I mean, personally, I'm not a huge fan of EQing or compressing guitars. I mean, the nature of a guitar is it's a huge compressed thing. You know, so adding compression to particularly distorted sounds is kind of seems unnecessary and quite often problematic when you're mixing, you know. I mean, with clean sounds and acoustic sounds, some compression is needed, and with bass, you know, you could shake as many compressors as you wanted. Really, it's that kind of thing. But I'd still, you know, sort of like start with, you know, the sort of microphone, the mic amp, and obviously the guitar amp, you know. I mean, because in effect, moving this microphone between the centre of the cone and the edge of the cone is going to be, you know, more dramatic than any kind of equalisation you can apply to it. And you know, if you want the sound to be brighter, you're going to want to move it in close to the centre of the cone, and you know, if you have your microphone off axis and you're adding lots of top end, it's always going to, you know, it's always going to sound a little forced, you know, as opposed to, you know, saying I want this guitar to have a brighter sound to it. So, for example, say if this is a 212, so a good thing to check is have a quick look, see where the speakers are. Because I know sometimes some Fender combos they have one speaker and it's slightly offset, so it'll be like to one side. So if you're like, if you think, oh, it's a 112 speaker and you whack it in the middle, you're possibly going to be pointing at the wood, which is not going to give you a great guitar sound. So here, say this is the 112. Another tip is to ensure that your mic stands are done up really tight, because you don't want these things moving around once you've got the optimum position. So let's say that's about the centre of the cone, and that's going to be a nice bright sort of like in your face kind of sound. And you know, if it feels like a little spiky, you can always come back a bit. Like, you know, you can come back sort of 3 or 4 inches. I mean, if you're using a condenser, you can come back much further. You come back up a few feet away. You know, again, it's just about trying these things out and using your ears, really. So, I mean, another sort of thing I like to do is, if you want a little fatter sound, is just to angle the mic slightly. You imagine this is the speaker here. So the cone is kind of shaped like this if you look at it from above. So you're kind of pointing like that, which is going to have a much rounder tone to it, you know. I mean, the difference that makes is unbelievable. I mean, and if you just put the headphones on and move that around, you'll hear the sort of huge amount of difference just literally moving between there and there, you know, is going to have. So I'd say, let's say, like, you know, you just want to get the whole thing going, you want to see what it sounds like. I would say a good starting point is pointing straight at the cone. I mean, if you're in doubt as to where the centre of the cone is, a trick that a lot of live engineers will use is you can just shine a little torch in through the grill cloth and see, and see where the cone is. I mean, on the bass amp here, you can actually clearly see where the cone is, So let's just demonstrate that on here for a second so you can see what's going on. So say that we were going for something roughly like that, which is right at the centre, which is going to be very bright and, quite sort of a lot of mid-range presence. So moving over to here is, you're still going to have, it's still going to be a powerful sound. And, a technique, I mean, as I was saying earlier, I'm not a big fan of EQing, but a technique you can do is to point it out the side and add a little top end if you want the fatness of the edge of the cone, but you still want it to cut. Or you can add a second mic in at the centre there. So you've got one that's picking up the sort of the more rounder, bassier sound than one that's getting all the bite from the middle. When employing a condenser into the equation, you want to make sure that the microphone has a pad, at least a 10 dB pad. I would nearly always go for 20 on a mic if it can. Hence why I would use a 4-on-4 as a really good choice, particularly for loud rock amps, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting a great sound together and doing your white noising and all your microphone. You're really happy with the mic position, and then you go for a slightly heavier gain and the microphone starts crapping out, because your choices there are turn the guitar amp down, which with a valve amp is going to, change all the distortion characteristics, or you have to swap the mic and kind of start again, which just all these things kind of, hold the session up or stop you from, you choosing the sound you want. As opposed to, you don't want the microphone to dictate what sound you get out of the amp. You want, you want the microphone to capture what is coming out of the amplifier, So, I mean, basically we've got here a 4-on-4, a 57. These are not, they're not sort of super duper microphones. They're just good workhorse microphones. I mean, a pair of 4-on-4s and a 57, you should really be able to make, a whole record.